We live in this age where, artificial intelligence can generate music, art, text. It's pretty breathtaking sometimes, the precision.
It really is.
And we often ask, okay, can machines really create? It's a huge question.
Right.
But for our deep dive today, we're tackling something maybe even deeper. Can they truly inspire?
That's the kicker, isn't it?
Yeah, so we're diving into this really fascinating concept. It's right at the intersection of, human intuition and AI capabilities. The human muse for digital art.
Right. And our sources, particularly from this initiative called TATANKA, they're proposing a pretty novel way of thinking about this.
Okay.
They suggest that the human spirit, our unique tastes, our thoughts, our actual lived feelings can guide a creative journey that's powered by AI.
So it's not just the AI doing its thing.
No, it's infusing it with something essential that the AI, it just doesn't have on its own.
So for you listening, whether you think of yourself as artistic or, not at all.
Yeah.
Get ready. We're going to explore what being a muse means now, why that human spark is maybe more vital than ever, and how your perspective, your unfiltered view, could actually be the compass for a whole new wave of digital art.
It's a really interesting tension. AI's power versus that human depth it lacks.
Exactly. Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do.
So traditionally, when we think muse, right, it's often this kind of silent figure.
Passive.
Yeah, someone whose essence just sort of ignites the artist. Plato even talked about it like almost divine inspiration sparking this whole chain reaction.
And what's so fascinating here is how TATANKA completely flips that script.
How so?
Well, in their model with AI art, the muse isn't passive at all. They're an active collaborator, curator, and conscience. That's the phrase they use.
Wow, okay. Collaborator, curator, and conscience.
Yeah. Your personal stories, your preferences, even your doubts and fears, they feed directly into the AI's generative process.
And that shift is it feels crucial. Because AI, for all its technical brilliance, it just lacks lived experience.
Exactly. It lacks emotion, intuition.
It can crunch data, see patterns, sure, but it can't, grieve. It can't love. It can't remember the specific smell of snow in the mountains, like they mentioned the 𝗧�𗓄𗏆
That's the core of it. And it begs the question, right? How do you bridge that gap, that huge qualitative difference between just data and real feeling?
Yeah.
The human muse provides that critical context, that soul, if you will. They infuse the AI's output with authenticity.
So it's not just generating sadness based on data points.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It's guided by your memory of sadness or your specific feeling of joy. That visceral thing, like maybe seeing the ocean for the first time, that's what guides the AI towards something genuinely resonant.
So your feelings, your insights, your whole worldview, really.
Yeah, they set the boundaries. They ensure themes like, say, peace or justice or identity. They actually land with people. It's about giving your unique human light to this tool.
A tool that otherwise stays brilliant, but blind.
Exactly. Brilliant but blind. Now, here's where it gets really interesting for me.
TATANKA argues that non-creatives, so people not professionally doing art stuff, they often bring the freshest perspectives, the most grounded ones.
It sounds a bit backwards at first, doesn't it?
It does.
But why? Well, the thinking is their ideas aren't already shaped by, industry trends or deadlines or thinking about how to sell it.
Ah, okay. No monetization pressure.
Right. So their input is often purer, more revealing anyway. A simple thought you had over coffee, maybe something poetic, or a childhood story that just stuck with you.
That could spark a whole album. Or a visual piece.
Potentially, yes. The AI is amazing at processing styles, rules, emotional tags from huge data sets, but it needs that initial spark, that human why behind it all to direct all that power.
So, you listening, you don't need to know MIDI or complex lighting techniques or music theory.
Nope.
It's less about the how-to and much more about, how you feel. What moves you? What do you want to see more of in the world art-wise?
And this approach, it genuinely opens the door for voices we don't often hear in tech-heavy creative fields. Cultural voices, emotional perspectives. It's especially powerful, they argue, for people who've maybe been marginalized or overlooked, people whose stories just carry real weight,
And whose insights haven't been, filtered through some commercial lens already?
Exactly. And that connects to the bigger picture. AI is strongest when it reflects the full range of human experience, not just a narrow slice.
And that starts with who gets to guide its path. Makes sense.
It does.
So, okay, if this human element is so key, how does it actually work? For someone listening who thinks, okay, maybe I could be a muse, TATANKA says it's simpler than it sounds.
It is. They stress it's not like applying for a job. It's a human connection, first and foremost.
Right.
You basically just share your thoughts, stories, preferences, whatever feels right. And that input gradually shapes the tone, the spirit of upcoming creative pieces.
And it can be flexible.
Oh, absolutely. You could be involving co-curating themes, maybe suggesting genres or titles, or you could just, share what's on your mind occasionally, whatever level feels comfortable.
What about credit? That seems important.
It is. And that's a key aspect. Muses are always credited as a conceptual collaborator.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which you could totally use on a resume or portfolio if you wanted. But you also have the option for it to be private or public. No pressure to perform.
It's really about your inner world.
Exactly. The muse acts as the compass. The conscience, even, reminding the AI in the process of what makes us human.
So the partnership ensures human vision stays irreplaceable.
It makes the muse the soul within the system, not just an add-on.
Okay, let's try and bring this to life a bit. There's a case study, 𝗧𝗕.
Yes, 𝗧𝗕, a logistics coordinator by day, language enthusiast by night. Not, a formally trained artist.
Right, but she felt things deeply.
Deeply. And that, it turned out, was more than enough. She found TATANKA's invitation, and what drew her in was precisely that she didn't need to be a performer or see herself as an artist.
And the conversation she had with JJ, the artist involved.
It was described as really invitational, asking about things like what makes you cry? What are the sense of home for you? What songs does your dreaming self hear?
Wow, deep questions.
Yeah. Not tasks, not assignments. They just exchanged voice notes, fragments of ideas, just essence, really.
Just essence. And her essence became the foundation for an entire album, the Ecliptic Tide.
That's right. A hybrid ambient folk album. And 𝗧𝗕 didn't write a single lyric, didn't play an instrument.
But the album wouldn't exist without her input. It's kind of mind-bending.
It really is. And there's one specific track, 𝗬𝗧𝗓. It was directly inspired by this recurring dream 𝗧𝗕 had.
A dream.
Yeah, of wandering barefoot through this salt-flat garden, trying to remember a song she'd actually never heard before.
Wow.
And that dream, it translated into this hauntingly beautiful melody generated by the AI, but then layered with whispers of 𝗧𝗕's own voice, reading old Lusitanian proverbs.
No way.
And even subtle wind chimes she'd just recorded casually on her phone.
That's incredible. And how is she credited?
As 𝗧𝗕 muse and narrative guide. Her specific worldview was publicly celebrated as part of the art's genesis.
That's a powerful statement, isn't it? About where artistic origin can really lie.
It truly is. And the process, it really transformed 𝗧𝗕 herself. Not into someone else.
Or of who she already was.
Exactly. She realized that just holding a memory, holding it with reverence, could actually move the world in a way. It really blurred those old lines between creator and observer.
So let's zoom out. The bigger picture here. This model, it's described as more than just innovation. It's a philosophical pivot, a quiet revolution of the soul.
Heavy stuff, but yeah.
It's exciting. But I imagine for some people listening, the whole idea of AI creating art might still feel a bit, inauthentic. How does this human muse idea tackle that skepticism? Because it's a real hurdle for some.
That's a really important question, and it gets right to the heart of what TATANKA seems to be doing. It's not about being nostalgic for a world before AI, or pretending the tech isn't powerful.
Well,
it's framed more as a necessity. The argument is that the spirit of creation, that fundamentally still belongs to us, to humans.
So AI isn't replacing the human spirit.
No, this framework aims to ensure it honors it by making human experience the actual source, the filter, the guide.
Yeah.
It ensures the final output, even though a machine-generated parts of it carries a genuinely human resonance. That's the goal.
This is really a profound invitation, then, for anyone willing to just offer their presence, their inner world.
Yeah, to give form to what's maybe always lived inside you, but perhaps you never had a traditional artistic outlet for it.
Right.
And ultimately, it's a reminder that creativity isn't just for the pros or the prodigies. Often, the most potent inspiration comes from the untrained, the unfiltered, the unafraid. You don't need the fancy tools. You just need your truth.
Your truth. Wow. So as we kind of wrap up this deep dive, it really makes you think about how irreplaceable that human vision, that intuition still is, even with all this dazzling machine precision around us.
Absolutely. That gap you mentioned between data and feeling, human intuition seems uniquely placed to bridge it.
And this Muse model, it makes sure that human emotion, lived experience, it isn't just tacked on at the end.
No, it's positioned as the very soul within the system. The thing that gives the AI-generated art its authenticity, its depth, its meaning.
So if creativity really does extend beyond formal training now, beyond the usual tools, and if, as they say, your lame experience becomes your palette, your curiosity, the brush,
Yeah.
then it makes you wonder, right? What untold stories, what unheard melodies are waiting inside your unique perspective, just waiting for the right kind of collaboration, maybe with AI, maybe with another person, to bring them to life. What part of your inner world, your interiority, could maybe spark the next wave of art? Something to think about.